Welcome. In this video, I want to take a look at trusted authentication. I chat a lot to people, especially to customers, and I also see a lot of comments in the YouTube chat. And that is all about what is trusted authentication in Tableau. Now, trusted authentication is when you work with embedded analytics in Tableau. Within embedded analytics, you need to secure your content. And one way of authorizing users and what they are able to see is by using trusted authentication. Now, embedded analytics is adding your visualizations, your analytics and insights into external facing products. Now, these can be websites. People can access Tableau visualizations through a mobile applications, and we've also seen embedded analytics in CRM systems like Salesforce. Now, what tools do I need to set up trusted authentication? Now, first of all, we need a Tableau server. Trusted authentication doesn't work with Tableau Online yet. We also need some kind of web portal or a place where your users log in to see the Tableau content. Now, the third one is your users. And fourthly, we have the visualizations. So you need some content to be displayed, of course. Now, what is the current setup in here? Now, we start drawing out a diagram. And on the left-hand side, we have Tableau and Tableau server. And on the right-hand side, we have a web server. Now, this web server can host, for example, a website. And that website is accessed by users. Now, when these users go to this particular website, they want to have access to particular dashboards. Now, when they access a website, they typically do that by some kind of form of login system. Now, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about what is this thing called a web server. Now, a web server can host static content like a website. Examples are, of course, google.com, tableau.com. Now, this web server sits somewhere, it's on the internet, and it has an IP address. For example, Google has an IP address of 216.582.10.238. This is a way to identify this particular website. Now, we typically don't type this into the URL bar if we want to go to a website, and that's what we use DNS. Now, for example, Tableau has this IP address. Just a little side note, if you want to know for a particular website what IP address they use, you can run this command in the terminal if you're using a Mac or if you're on Linux. For example, nslookup google.com, and you will get a response with the IP address. Now, let's go back to the diagram that we had. And once the user kind of logs in and wants to have access to the content, it needs to make a request, or the web portal needs to make a request to Tableau server. Now, this request is a post request. And where do we actually need to send this post request to? Well, you have your Tableau server URL, ideally running on HTTPS. Now, if you send a payload to your Tableau server /trusted, and this particular payload contains a username, and optionally, if you have multiple sites on Tableau server, you also need to tell it which site. So when you actually are in this diagram again, you can see that the web server needs to capture the user that logs in. It's also very important to note that every user that wants to see visualizations in a portal, in an embedded portal, they need to have a user account on Tableau server, because that user account needs to be sent to Tableau server /trusted. Now, but how does Tableau know this particular web server? Now, it actually needs to trust the IP address of the web server. Okay, And that's where the thing called trusted authentication comes from. Now, this can be trusted or not trusted, but imagine we trust the IP address. What do we get back? Now we get back a ticket, or also known as a token. But what is this ticket? Now, this ticket is a long string, contains characters, of course, and it's valid for 3 minutes. So within 3 minutes, you need to use it. And it's also only valid once, which means that if you want to make subsequent requests to other visualizations in the web portal, you need to again request a new token. Now, if your token request doesn't work, you get an error back with a -1 as the token. The -1 is not a valid token. It's a token that contains an error message, basically. So this is the diagram. The next step is to actually validate this token. So we got the token. Now we need to use the token somewhere to display the visualization in our website. And we do that by including the ticket in the URL of the dashboard. So we have our Tableau server /trusted/ticket/views/ whatever the name is of your dashboard. And there we go. This is the complete diagram of doing trusted authentication. But wait, we kind of skipped over one particular step here. And that was the second step, where we trust the IP address. Now, where do we do that and where do we configure that? Now, in order to configure that, we need to use Tableau Services Manager, TSM, and we need to run a particular command on TSM. We can also do this in the Tableau Server user interface, but in this instance, I'm showing you the actual command we need to run. So TSM Authentication Trusted Configure, that's TH, followed by the IP address, but this can also be a host name of your web server. And in this instance, please use your own IP address, not the one that we have listed here. And you can also add multiple IP addresses if you want to trust multiple web services. Okay, this has been a quick explanation of how trusted authentication works. Many thanks for listening. Hopefully you learned a little bit. Hopefully you also liked the illustrations. If you want to learn more, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitter. And if you also want to learn more about Tableau, please also follow the Information Lab on Twitter. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you in the next one.